So the leaks for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 27 has just been released, and this chapter is already looking peak. The build-up is finally here, as we are preparing for Mamushi's making his way into the village. So the cover of this chapter is Inigen. This cover is cool, it's just a little average to me, not anything too crazy. I do like certain aspects of this cover. I feel like we're seeing Inigen get a little bit more shine in the story, which is very intriguing that he was the one to get it out of everybody else, and I'm really liking his development in this chapter too. But this is what we end up getting for Inigen. It's a little cool. I'm gonna wait till I see the high quality version before I give my honest thoughts. But the chapter starts off with Sarada and Sumire from what it appears, right where Damon had his hand on both of their necks, but he ends up letting them go. It appears like he's just basically showing his power, letting them know that in an instant he can kill them without them even realizing, just showcasing the difference in strength that Damon has compared to both Sarada and Sumire. So now Sarada is like a bit confused, believing that they were going to be killed because Eida ended up discovering the fact that they are not immune to her charm ability. Due to her finding that, Sarada believed that they were going to be killed. But Eida says no, that she's just trying to figure out exactly why they're immune, and she basically has a theory. So it seems like throughout all the interactions that they ended up having in the past, as we did end up seeing that they became friends throughout the time skip, it appears like Eida has been slowly thinking as to what is the reason why they do not behave like they're affected, and then she ended up coming up with her own theory. From what it seems like she is saying, she's basically discussing the fact that she believes that they are not immune to her abilities because of her own volition. She believes that her desire, in fact, was to have friends, and because of that desire, she ended up subconsciously turning off the charm ability for both Eida and Sumire, allowing them to be real friends. We end up seeing them hug and go back to that discussion that they had in the past where Sarada ended up telling her that they should just be normal friends. And maybe that was really the catalyst towards the charm ability not fully working on both Eida and Sumire, as Eida wanted them to have this friendship. This is beautiful writing that we're seeing right here. And with the fact that we have Mamushi who is coming here and is potentially going to be attempting to make Eida his, we're going to be seeing a lot more focus on Eida herself, and this is why we're seeing this writing come to be. The finalization of why exactly Sumire and Sarada were not affected by Eida's ability. Is this trying to tell us that, oh, this is the final piece of writing we're getting for Eida as she's going to be defeated, or something like that is going to happen? As of right now, I don't really know, but this is still something that we have to discuss. We see them hugging and everything looks cool and cordial. As we move on to the dangerous future that Kashin Koji has seen. And we're moving on to that future by discussing Mamushi's ability. And exactly like I told you guys, Mamushi's ability is to clone himself. It is called splitting apart in this chapter, or various different translations are out right now. We don't have the official translations, but yes, as I was talking about in the video in the past, I'll obviously make sure you guys watch the video when you guys have any free time, but it was quite clear to me that Damon's ability would be cloning. So I'm quite happy to see that a video I ended up posting quite recently ended up being revealed to be true in the following chapter. So basically my understanding of it, as the translations I do have and what I can basically see, Mamushi is able to split himself apart or clone himself into multiple, and from what I've seen and read, it appears like he basically has no limits. And now the question would be, oh, so it means that, okay, he can clone himself, but he's basically, it's gonna be like the shadow clone jutsu. He's gonna lose a level of strength and he's gonna lose a bit of his chakra each time he ends up splitting himself apart. But that is not the case for Mamushi, as he stays the same regardless of how many times he splits apart, and he basically has no limit to the manner in which he can split apart. So all the clones that he has basically have the same amount of chakra, the same amount of strength, and the same amount of abilities. There is no limitations when it comes to that. However, the limitation that is being discussed is the intelligence. So the more he splits himself apart, the less intelligence each and every one of the clones that he ends up making has. So their overall intelligence ends up splitting And also, it appears like their movements become more simple. So it almost appears like he becomes more animalistic, acts more like the Ten-Tails itself, maybe, in the sense that it is an animal. It is not something that has a level of intelligence. So the more he clones himself, he loses that level of intelligence. So he probably behaves more like a dog. So it appears to me that it's going to be a lot easier to deal with Mamushi when he ends up losing his intelligence. That is what they're talking about. But you also have to keep in mind the fact that they're going to be characters that are at least code level of strength, that are basically multiple different code level strength. Although they drop in intelligence, it's still something to be worried about. It's still something that could end up backfiring if you let them reach a certain high level. And essentially, the level that they're discussing that could potentially be the best to limit Damien at is around 20 to 30 clones. He will have a sufficient amount of less intelligence than compared to when he was by himself, but it won't be too many clones as to where they can't deal with them all at once. That's the basic idea that they're having. Now, who exactly is going to be partnered up for this mission? It appears like he's going to be coming into Konoha from what I can currently see, and that his eyes play some sort of role. Right now, the translations that I'm seeing are really not the best, so I don't want to give anything out definitive, but from what I can get the gist of, his eyes do play a role. Destroying his eyes does make it impossible for him to split using that specific clone. So destroying the eyes of each and all the clones that he ends up making allows it so that the clone is not able to clone himself even more. So Mamushi's abilities are really cool in my personal opinion. I'm liking the sort of path that they're going with this. Each and every one of the Senju clones have their unique way of fighting, and that's pretty cool in my personal opinion. Now we end up hearing more information about Jira, saying how basically all the Senju have a level of fear for him, so they obey his commandments in a way. So Mamushi, even attacking the village, he will make sure that he doesn't cause too much damage, as he doesn't want to upset Jiro. So just Jiro getting more aura points, getting more achievements, just some classic Jiro stuff that we see every single chapter. I'm happy to see it, but that's not where it ends. We have Inigen's role being made more important. Apparently, there was a future where Himawari ended up dying, and to avenge Himawari, we had Inigen who ended up developing an ability. And that ability is going to be super important for what is to come. So Inigen learning this ability is crucial in whether the future ends up going into the worst one or into a future that allows the leaf to live. So Inigen is actually going to be a very important character, so I'm really glad to see that. So what is being discussed here is a ability that ends up going towards the mind transferring jutsu. I don't know exactly what it is not really named, or maybe I haven't seen it in the translations, but it's going to be very important. Kashikoji says that Mamushi could attack a week from now, or in the worst case, he could attack 2 days from now. So he wants Inigen to end up mastering that ability in 2 days. And since we have the fact and the mention that Himawari's life did come to an end because of everything that ended up taking place, Inigen is like, I'ma learn it in a day, just showing the resolve he has due to Himawari's name being mentioned. But now we end up going to Kawaki and Amado, and they're looking at everything that is taking place. And yes, he is confirming that the Divine Tree is helping Jiro out, whether it is Jiro who is controlling the Divine Tree or the Divine Tree that is just coming to help out Jiro. And due to this simple fact, we have an Amado that basically believes that Jiro has a form of immortality using this ability. And we have Kawaki who tells Amado that he needs to become even stronger, but an Amado who believes that it's not even gonna work. There's nothing they can basically do, because making Kawaki even stronger is ultimately going to lead to Kawaki's body self-destructing. But Kawaki doesn't care. He grabs Amado by the neck and is like, yo, just do as you are told. And you know that you want your daughter to come back, right? So just do as you are told, or you're never going to see your daughter. Either place your bets on me or just never see your daughter. And that's exactly what Amado is going to be forced to do. We end up getting scenes where we have Konohamaru, who ends up meeting with the second before the daimyo, and he ends up discussing various things. The translation aren't the best, so I'm probably going to skip this part a little bit, But yeah, the whole conversation is about what exactly does Konohamaru know. And one funny part about it, the person who is asking these questions to Konohamaru, just gauging the way Konohamaru is answering them, he's like, yo, this person is too unintelligent to be a mole. And obviously it's Konohamaru, the worst character in the series. So there's no surprise here. He did end up deducing that by having a few conversations with Konohamaru. He is an unintelligent species. It would have been a problem if he went up against Mamushi, even if he had 1,000 clones and basically had no intelligence. But jokes aside, we're essentially seeing Konohamaru also join this squad of people who are working with Boruto. Essentially, we have Inigen, we have Shikamaru, we have Kashin Koji, we have all these various people who are growing with Boruto. Also Sumire and Sada, obviously, and Eida too, and Mitsuki. So we're having all these people that are slowly joining Boruto's side, and they're developing this almost faction against the others, against the affected, the ones who are against Boruto due to omnipotence. But Sumire ends up leaving to go to the Rishin lab as she has stuff to do, where she ends up encountering with Boruto. Boruto, who was just laying in the outskirts, he says, yo, he speaks just like me, that's part of my lingo too, so we got that connection between me and Boruto. But he ends up telling Sumire that he essentially needs to have his weapon fixed. We do see a Mitsuki, damn. It's been a minute since I've seen Mitsuki, bro. We do see Mitsuki who is around, who is paying attention to what is going on as he is a guard, but Boruto ends up giving his sword to Sumire so that Sumire can fix the chip that was taking place. So we're going to see a new version of the sword that Boruto will have. Will it come with new abilities? That's what I'm personally thinking. And I will be dropping a video on that very soon, but essentially Sumire is going to be the one to do those repairs. So maybe this is the role of Sumire. She's not going to be a fighter, but somebody who ends up working with the scientific division to end up increasing the manpower of various shinobi, just like Boruto. Is this going to ultimately lead her towards more problems? This could be something that is discussed and we do end up seeing, but what is being said here is that it will take a week. But with what we end up seeing very soon, we see that Mamushi ends up attacking 2 days from now. That's what the narrator ends up telling us. So it means that Boruto won't be using his sword for a little while. Is he going to be fighting versus Mamushi? We do end up seeing this epic panel. I love this panel that we see right here of Mamushi and all his clones getting ready to fight. Bro, this better be peak. But one thing that is very interesting that we do end up seeing here is the simple fact that Mamushi has learned how to hide his chakra signal. So there is no way of truly detecting that he is here. And the reason why that is important is because Kashin Koji said it is between the range of 2 to 1 week that we're going to have Mamushi end up appearing. So he can't really know when they appear, especially now that Mamushi has hidden his chakra signal. So until he makes a move that everybody can notice, until he makes a big move, nobody will truly know. But those are the leaks that are being shown right now. This chapter is looking peak, and when the translations do end up coming, you should expect to get a review. But it's been your boy Dynasty. Definitely watch this video right here, where I did end up predicting that Mamushi's ability would be clones. But if you have any thoughts or concerns, let me know in the comment section below. It's been your boy Dynasty, and I'm out, bruh.